Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hello there. Welcome back, and kind of sort of a take two.
Or take 20. Because we've had a lot of issues, and I know there's a lot of family members there that are with us and have been with us a long time, so they know of our issues with non-human entities, and they continue. They're on a daily basis. But even though we are behind enemy lines here on this planet right now, and make no mistake about it, you are behind enemy lines. You're in the thick of things. Mm-hmm. And in fact, we're watching a new 4TH, right? REICH, rising from the ashes before our very eyes right now. And this computer that I'm doing the video on last night was, we thought, absolutely dead. A few banishing rituals, some sage, and it's working again, thanks to the guides. And we do have a backup computer, which we're thankful for. That
Super
we could
grateful. Thank you, Miss Linda.
That Linda from Oklahoma sent us. However, we've had issues updating it to where it can run the usual OBS studio that we use. And then we'll go to a third computer, which gives us the echoing sometimes from time to time. And all this is due to interference from the powers that be. And, who are these powers that be? Well, they're non-terrestrial and they're non-human. And as we've said before, once humanity recognizes this for a fact, then we'll actually have a chance to move together as one out of the system.
Yes, there's these nameless, faceless entities that I don't know. I feel like I've dealt with them all of my life. And it is interesting once you start understanding and waking up more and more, you can see what's out there. You start to put faces on them and names on them. They're very real, and they do mess with you. And don't you guys forget that, because that's what keeps us going, is to understand that there is something out there that's not doing things in your best interest.
Yeah, there was a comment the other day, and I know you guys are probably reading this right off the bat and saying, "Uh-oh," and this is something that we're going to have to watch for sure. But I just wanted to mention the comment where they had made the comment that, I like watching your channel when you talk about real things, meaning just, give me the news and that's it, no flavor. Well, we're never going to be that. We don't care about numbers. We don't care about numbers from the sense that we're not in this for money. We're in this risking our lives because it's our purpose. And we've done this multiple times before in other lives, and we can see those lives, of which, many have been difficult unto the point of, the end of the life, not coming in a nice way. But, this is our purpose. It's to wake people up and recognize that this system has them under control. And, we're not going to be slaves to the system. We are in the system. We have to continue to use the system, unfortunately, but we will not be slaves to it. We will not buckle to it. We will not succumb to it. And we will never give away our purpose or our souls for anything that they could offer.
No, all of us at some point in our lives have been, in the system, and we've woken up to that. And once you wake up, you just can't go back.
You can't, and as we've talked about with the Bible and how it's been so twisted and distorted, I do think that the whole world could benefit if we would go in deep and do a comparative study of all different traditions, so we could open up our minds a little bit more and expand them. Yet, even what might not be the actual reality still has some great messages. And, if you are one, as the majority of the world believes the official story that Yeshua died on the cross for our sins, You could take that to be the lesson of self-sacrifice to the highest possibility for the greatest good of all, which is so noble. Yeah, when you think about it in those terms. I mean, what could one possibly do but stand up, all the way to the very end for what one believes is right and good and just for all? Again, service to self or service to others, as the Law of One talks about.
Mm-hmm.
So GOP Rep McCall says 6 planes with Americans on board are stuck at Afghanistan airport in a hostage situation with the Taliban. And they say that the Taliban's just looking to get something out of this. They want something in exchange. And they want to flex their muscles. And again, all these groups, so many of these groups, who funds them? Well, sometimes the very ones that are fighting them are funding them.
Yep.
And that's the blatant truth, because if peace broke out all over the world, then people would have the time to recognize that there's something wrong with the system. They have to constantly keep us in fear, constantly keep us looking over our shoulders. And, somebody had sent me, actually, a couple people had sent me a video link to a group that does remote viewing. And in this group, I think there was 6 people, and like 4 or 5 of them had, for the month of September, seen visions of mushroom clouds. And so, we asked our contact at the Galactic Federation, what's up with that? Anything to worry about? And, the answer was there will be no nuclear holocaust upon the Earth, because they will simply not allow it. As we've said, there's language written into agreements of which humans, unfortunately, are not privy to, as again, recognized non-humans run the show here. Yet there are certain bounds that could be overstepped, and that's one of them. But there have been nuclear conflagrations on the planet in the past, as Robert Oppenheimer himself, the father of modern nuclear weaponry, said. He basically said, he's become Shiva, the destroyer of worlds now in this modern age, because it happened in the past. And much of what we see when we get these visions, we're seeing the past. We're remembering past incarnations. We're going through DNA memory, and we're remembering what happened in the past. And I've shared with you guys too. I mean, rolling through the Arizona desert, basically, I would say northwest of St. John's, south of Winslow. That's an area that had horrible death and destruction from above all of a sudden. There's others as well along the southern Arizona, New Mexico border. It could sense that, what we're seeing is body parts of giants. I know it sounds crazy, but yeah, fossilized body parts of giants, they were all wiped out from above instantaneously. Just, so many lives snuffed out in a second. This is part of the hidden history of this planet. So when we look to things like this, yeah, they grab our attention right now, but there's a bigger thing in play here. There's a much bigger power struggle that's going on.
Oh, most definitely. They're doing everything that they know how to do to keep us in a state of fear and distracted and not focusing on the number one most important thing that's going on right now. The biggest deal ever is our evolution. And they're doing a really good job on covering that up.
6 airplanes stuck at Mazar-e-Sharif International Airport in northern Afghanistan with Americans on board unable to take off because they have not received clearance from the Taliban, Representative Michael McCall said on Sunday. McCall, a Republican from Texas, made the comments during an appearance on Fox News Sunday and said the Afghan interpreters were also on the planes. In fact, we have 6 airplanes over at the airport, 6 airplanes with American citizens on them as I speak, along with the interpreters, and the Taliban's holding them hostage for demands right now. McCall, the top Republican on the House Foreign Affairs Committee, told Fox News' Chris Wallace state has cleared these flights, and the Taliban will not let them leave the airport. So we shall keep an eye on this. And I wanted to throw this in quick before jumping to a little bit different topic. And here we see from the Thomas Jefferson papers, no free man shall ever be debarred from the use of arms. The strongest reason for the people to retain the right to keep and bear arms is, as a last resort, to protect themselves against tyranny and the big G, G-O-V. And so, we are often joined by our guides, and these are very high vibrational guides, wonderful beings that help us so much in our work, energy work, and work in getting out the right message. And, we want and we will get to a point where peace breaks out all over the planet. The big question is, how can you have peace in the face of such, well, the big T word right there? As we see, this was pretty brutal. French cops brutally arrest 2 women and then retreat in the face of a big crowd of protesters. Again, the message, I gotta ask the people of the world that are supporting just, the atrocities that are going on in so many ways, to look deep into your heart. Who do you really serve? So many people, as we've alluded to before, take an oath to their country and then end up disillusioned 4 years later, 6, 8 years later, 20 years later, maybe. And, I come from a family on one side, it's all career military people, really, going back. On my mom's side, that's what they did. And yet, the disillusionment with what is really going on. How many people, and we have clientele that are in all branches of quote unquote service, whether it be policemen or military or even in some of the alphabet soups. And they recognize and acknowledge that things are not as they should be. It's truly sad. And when we look at that quote by Jefferson there, one of the founding fathers, and so many of the founding fathers were Masons. So many spoke up about, life, liberty, and the pursuit of justice, and yet they themselves, hypocritically, had slaves. They didn't even think it was wrong. Maybe they did think it was wrong, but they weren't willing to change their lifestyle or to lay out more cash for people to actually work for them and pay them. Sure, there's always been so many wrongs on this planet in this age. And again, we're coming out of the dark age, heading into more of an iron age, which is not perfect, and then eventually silver and gold. And the golden age lasts the longest, thankfully. But this is a repetitive cycle. And we see thousands of people gathering in the Netherlands. And we don't hear a lot about it. But then again, it's because of the control grid that is all over this planet. This planet is controlled so obviously by any with discernment by beings that do not have the best interest of humanity in mind. And here we see one doctor speaking out about the denial of treatment for certain people that won't get a certain procedure, because this is popping up all over the place, especially in certain places like Australia, New Zealand, Canada, UK. All these places, coincidentally, where there's not the ability to do this. Because, for one, they don't have the ability. It's, again, very different situation in each country. And how about in China or Russia? How much ability do those citizens have to really say no to the powers that be in those countries. Very little. Very, very little. And as I've shared, do you know there's more firearms in the hands of American citizens than there is in the Chinese military, all their military branches, which is the biggest military numerically? There's a reason why we see things going on the way they are going on. Economic war to begin as in the US, as Portland's going to impose sanctions against Texas. And, this is part of what I've been saying since 2017, letting you guys know there's different stages to this. And the guys that showed me this really ever since I was a teenager. And one of the things that's in the plans is basically a replay in a different way of 1861. Do you guys know your history? I know a lot of you guys do. 1860, there's certain numbers that automatically trigger, there's dates that live in infamy. 1861 to 1865, the War of the States, right? So, that is part of, again, this bigger plan that's underway that's going to end up with basically one global system is what is envisioned by these powers that be, in which they no longer have to worry about, anybody speaking up. Anybody having any real ability to do anything in regards to speaking up.
Right now is so important because we do have the ability to hold our ground and speak up. Well, at the same time, though, you want to simply focus on splitting yourself away from the system. You want to focus on separating yourself from the system. The system is going to peel itself away from you. Allow that to happen and get yourself in a situation where you're safe, you have enough stuff, you don't need the system. And we're in that time frame now. So it's one of those things that's a long-term preparation. But if you want to be free, it's a preparation that you need to start.
And I know many people's comments that I've read where, if you are a starseed or you are a lightworker, you might feel like, I don't want to even be here anymore. And that's a natural feeling. But many of us, we're not aware of it completely. You might have an inkling, or you might be aware of it completely. But you kind of agreed to be here because you didn't have to be here. You chose to be here to help out all the ones that had to be here. And so it's a choice. Again, it's brave, going in behind enemy lines for the good, the greater good of the majority of the people on the planet. And, this is over the, well, there's a lot of different ways you could word this too, as people on one side will say one thing and others will use different terminology. But, in Texas, they're doing laws the way they want to do them. And again, this is where the states don't have a lot in common. Some of these states have nothing in common besides being under one flag at the moment. But here you see, there is a Texas law that bans abortions as early as 6 weeks, and it's in effect. And of course, there are people on both sides of that. Some people are for the right for the woman to choose, and other people just think that it's an atrocity. But the thing that is key here is to take that we don't agree, we're never going to agree. And again, that's part of what's going on now, because everything that is a difference is going to be highlighted, accentuated, brought to the forefront, because they want to create a second 1861. Mm-hmm. They want that triggering event because it's going to make it again. It goes back to what you read at the Tower of Babel. They can't have unity of any sorts. They need to break it down, have us constantly fighting amongst ourselves. And when we do that, then we weaken ourselves. Yet at the same time, we need the power structure of this entire globe to be broken down, because it's through these systems, these measures, these alphabet soups out there that everything is controlled. So, does the U.S. need to split up? Again, we don't look at things even remotely alike, but they want us to split up basically to increase the lowering of the guard, to get us fighting ourselves to the point where we take ourselves out so much. Then it's very easy for that very red dawn to dawn all over the country, from sea to shining sea.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a big part of the plans that are going on. And so we see a tweet by the governor of the second largest state in the country talking about the first largest state in the country, California losing population to other states, businesses, headquarters leaving California at record pace, Americans moving to Texas more than any other state, #1 in business relocations. Texas policies attract people more than any other state. And we did work on a family member this week that moved from California to Texas and then moved back to California because it just wasn't for them and they didn't feel comfortable or like they were thriving there. And there could be a lot of different reasons of a personal sort. It could be just where you end up situated. Maybe you're situated right next to a FIVG tower, and in the other location you were more remote. It's when we were in New Mexico, we didn't feel the effects of any sort of energies like that. It felt extremely clear. We were able to kind of, be on a different wavelength. That here, there's more energy for sure. There's more energy interference. There's just more people than there was out there. Yet you got to make your decisions, and we would not have the burgeoning garden that we have starting. Thank you guys that did check out the video.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a modest start, but it's going to be way easier here than it was in New Mexico or Nevada, where we'd have to be first conditioning, bringing in topsoil, and then fighting the lack of rain, the wildfires. And more than anything, the reason why we left New Mexico was it was the governor,
Mm-hmm.
and just encountering roadblocks, and didn't like that feel at all. And so that's why we did leave New Mexico, even though we do love the state. Again, if we weren't told by the guides that we were supposed to stay in the U.S., I would have dragged Cindy out of the country to a small little country somewhere if we were able to. And because this country is going to have some of the biggest challenges. Absolutely. Same thing with any NATO nation or any country that's aligned with the U.S. And this is the Forbes article that he was quoting, and has like different stats in there too. And California always kept growing at a fast, incredibly fast pace. But from 2000 to 2020, it lost 2.6 million people. That's a lot. That's a lot of people leaving it. And it's such a diverse, beautiful state. Just looking at, topography, the geography of the state, it gives you so many different options. It's not because of the natural beauty, that's for sure. It's because of the governance and the over-governance, and the basically being just about as close as you could get in the U.S. to a system that we see over in Australia, New Zealand, UK, Canada. And again, it gets back to that Jeffersonian quote. And when you look at gun ownership by country, there's one country that's a mile ahead of everybody else. The U.S., by a mile, 120.5 civilian firearms per 100 people. So that's a lot. And nobody comes close. We're like double the Falkland Islands, who's number 2, and Yemen's number 3, and we're more than double that. Because, again, this country was brought up in a certain way and a certain mindset. And I think that we, for the most part, Americans do have that freedom mindset. And it's just a matter of waking people up to recognize exactly what's going on. And we're not saying that, the use of these weapons, is something to go off and do. That's craziness, because we're definitely people that are promoting peace, and yet at the same time, we know that one of the checks that keeps total takeover is just this knowing that's there, even though they do have drones and they do have weaponry that you would never see it coming. You would never see it coming. Satellite-based weaponry. We're going to see so much of this stuff coming out of the woodwork in the times that are ahead of us. And yet, when we look at the big geopolitical situation, the signs are obvious. Taiwan scrambling jets, reports of Chinese nuclear-capable bombers breaching its air defense zone. And so this latest incursion was 19 aircraft, including nuclear-capable bombers, that breached the Taiwan Air Defense Identification Zone. And they're just testing the waters, but at some time it will be a go. We know it's going to be a go at some point in time. And in times past, there would have been a response, but now will there be? Because we recognize the Trojan Horse is well in place, as we've been talking about, and that was from the guys in 2016 telling me, Trojan Horse, beware the Trojan Horse. Well, it's obvious the Trojan Horse is in place. Do you know that Chinese companies are now paying 3 times the amount of American companies for top PhDs? 3 times. This is interesting in some industries, and gets into a couple examples there. So there's going to be a brain drain too. But again, and because the monetary system controls really so much of everything now, where is the power of that monetary system going? It's going over to the red country.
Mm-hmm.
And that's part of this new power structure they envision, where there's camps out there for re-education for those that are not thinking along party lines.
I know, it's really concerning. It's something that it's a reality, though. It's not like we can just stop and disengage and not think about these things. We have to stay on a certain track, but there's always balance. You got to remember that balance. You don't want to be completely engorged in fear and, thoughts of things discontinuing. You don't want to be engorged in that. You do want to be working on your own balance. You do want to be working on being prepared, but not always being in fear, because that's what they use. That's what they use to keep hurting us in the direction they want to hurt us. We want to be independent. We want to have our own thinking. We want to have our own critical thinking. We want to have our own ideas. And again, let that system peel away from you. Don't continue down the system lines. They're going to have more electronics. They're going to have more really cool inventions, more really cool games to keep people kind of engaged in the system. Let all of that peel away. Get as simple as you possibly can. In fact, if there's some way you can backpedal when it comes to all of the new gadgets they have, do that. Pare down. Don't use as many electronics. That's how you allow the system to peel away from you and you start to gain your own sense of independence.
So many people became dependent on certain things over this time period. And of course, when we look at CV 1919, it's been almost 2 years. We'll be at the 2-year point, in like 4 more, not even 3+ months, 2 whole years. And what do we see? There's no end in sight. And yet, so many people became totally dependent on the state. And as you see, 2 anchors of this safety net's ending. Oh, we know there's family members out there. And, if anybody needs some hogs, there is a small little family farm out there in North Carolina that does have some hogs for sale and is in need of some liquidity, as so many people are. So many people are, and this is when the tough times are really going to be beginning now. I know it seems like for so many, it's like you can't take much more. Well, that's exactly, how this goes. And they will ratchet it up now to a much more uncomfortable level. And this is all being done in stages. Cindy's been equating it to, the frog that jumps into a pot of nice warm water, very comfortable, great little pond here. Maybe they even threw you a few lily pads in there to rest on. Well, they're taking the lily pads away and they're turning the fire up now.
Mm-hmm.
This is exactly what they're going to do. And anytime you become reliant on Big Brother, not a good thing. Not a good thing at all. And yet, what are so many to do? Again, it's understandable. It's so understandable. And, I'm speaking from the point of making choices myself that I never thought I would have made these choices. And when I look at my previous life and being in the corporate world for most of it to a certain point, and then deciding to branch out and try a little freedom of sorts, and just a little freedom in this world. We recognize that it's not true freedom. There's always ways that you are, still anchored to it. Just like if you own your property outright and you can't pay your taxes, it's not your property. If there is any sort of emergency and your property is, useful, it can be taken. This is something that's gone on since feudal times. It's still in effect today. So while we're in this 3D matrix that's heading towards 4D, and then eventually for many 5D, we're still in this matrix, and they're still controlling all of the chess pieces pretty much. We want to try to escape what maybe just a few little assets that we could kind of do our own thing and then link up with other people that are doing their own thing and slowly but surely start to wrest away the control that the system has on us. Well, it's certainly not going to be involving relying on anything from Big Brother. And there's a whole bunch of people that now Labor Day represents a crossroads. And unemployment benefits, the eviction moratorium, the expanded child tax credit. There's all these things. The whole system. Many people recognize this world is incorporated, and we're under maritime law. And for a lot of you guys, we know. And a lot of you guys are like, "What? What are you talking about?" But you just have to look deeper, because so much of the stuff that you might have heard of and dismissed as being just craziness, I don't know of any craziness that hasn't proven over time to be actually foresight,
right,
and understanding the bigger picture.
Oh, I know. And people talk about how crazy we are, but exactly like Mike said, give us something that we've been dead wrong on.
Well, yeah, I mean, seriously, why do I get a headache every time I put the cell phone to my head? Oh, don't worry. No, nothing's going to happen there. There's, that's whatever it's putting off is minuscule. And then, nope. Well, you know what? Studies show it could cause tumors. It's not a tumor. Yes, it could be.
Yeah.
How about the nonstick cookware? How about microwaves? How about those funny clouds in the sky that you get the Wikipedia on? CON. Not CHEM. CON is what Wikipedia keeps saying. Why does Wikipedia, why are the Wikipedia links when people were talking about CHEMs, and I kept saying, no, you're really looking at CONs. No, we were looking at CHEMs because it's been declassified. It's just one thing after another, every single thing. Can you find something that's been debunked? What has actually been completely debunked and that stays debunked years and decades later? I can't even think of anything. Honestly, I mean, we could go through the plastics. And now, you look and say, okay, good, non-BPH, yeah. But before, oh no, go ahead, it's fine. Don't worry, your sperm counts have dropped 60%. That's natural. Yeah, that's perfectly normal. Yeah, it's just a cycle. It's just a natural cycle. Maybe it's all carbon emissions.
Right. Not to mention this testing on us, overall testing with different types of substances and stuff.
Operation Sea Spray. I mean, we could go on to all these different operations that are now out there for you to see. Why would they let you see them now? Well, maybe it's because they feel like we're too far along in their plans for there to be any real resistance. As you see, Homeland Security agents intercept counterfeit. This is the big thing now, the big business, right? I had seen a whole bunch of those intercepted before, and they came from CHINA. And my initial thought was not what most people were talking about. I was thinking they were probably heading to people that were placed here already, so they wouldn't have to get it, make it look like they already had it, but they're really working for, CHINA in a covert way, and they had to keep them in a certain state. If you could figure out, again, what we're talking about here, and again, we have to be careful, and already it feels like we've gone too far in this video. Nearly a week without power, New Orleans is facing a race with the clock, and we had heard estimates that might be a month. And there was a sighting of number 46 where a whole bunch of utility workers, instead of looking at the motorcade and waving and smiling, they turned away. They put their backs to number 46 as more people are catching on. So yeah, when will the power get turned on? Do you know that the feels like temperatures are 100 plus every single day? We know because we have basically pretty similar environment to what's going on over there. 70% of electric customers still don't have any power. This is not good. And when you look at the bigger picture of what's going on, Port Fushan, major oil and gas hub, 16 to 20% of the oil in the U.S. comes from here. This was a direct hit. And again, if you are softening up a country for what's to come, the dawning of a new, age, maybe a little shaded red, this is again a target. Houston would be a major target as well. There's going to be obvious targets. So they had 150-mile-an-hour winds and a storm surge of 12 to 14 feet, extensive damage, far-reaching. They got a long recovery ahead of us. So says Chet Chasson, executive director of the port, serving over 90% of the Gulf of Mexico's deepwater oil production. This is big. Mm-hmm. No electricity, won't be electricity a long time. No running water. It's going to take weeks. Ripple effects, of course, it's going to increase gas prices. Each day, day to day, we service about 16 to 20% of the nation's entire oil supply. Talk about, wondering if there's any weather, WARFARE, going on. And, of course, I would say obviously there is. And it's on a very big scale. Do you know the Navy invented a device that will prevent people from talking?
It doesn't surprise me.
Literally. And you got to ask yourself, I mean, when you look at some of the inventions that come out of DARPA, it's not about protecting people. Well, yeah, maybe it is. Maybe it's about protecting the, less than 1/10 of 1% that controls everything. But that's it. Not you and I.
Right.
Not any of the average people out there. This system can get very sneaky by repeating anything a speaker says milliseconds after it's said. So what they could do is basically kind of drown out any dissent. The Navy filed a patent for a device that makes it difficult for most people to speak. The device repeats anything a speaker says milliseconds after it's said, disrupting a person's concentration. The device is one of many types of non-lethal weapons designed to affect people without seriously injuring or killing them. It's an amazing method of crowd control.
It is. And, like I've talked about this many times, the person I studied my tuning from, with the voice and sound and how frequency can affect the human body, when she was out doing her studies, many, many, many things were classified as a how did she put it?
Like a national secret or
Yes, it
something
was
along those
a
lines.
national it was because of security. They couldn't show these things, and it had everything to do with frequency.
Well, yeah, because frequency can heal or it can kill.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all about frequency. So we have a mysterious flying triangle photographed, obviously with that contrail, as we don't happen to notice anything over on the sides of the wings shooting out.
That's just a contrail with nothing there. That's nothing.
But that's basically my point. Is that's
don't believe your lying eyes.
Well, it's conventional, because this is we have technology that's anti-gravity. So, yeah, this is something that is going. This is in the Philippines, by the way. So they're just wondering if it's U.S., if it's Chinese. As you see, the RQ-180 aircraft, it probably is one of the US's, and it is classified. But I would say this is a late classification. Because, the heavy stuff has technology where it doesn't use any sort of combustion engines. And we've encountered those things multiple times. And I know, most of you guys know us pretty well. So we will get people that, don't really know us really well and say things like, there really are no aliens and this and that. But, when we've encountered them all our lives, because they know who we are, because this is not the first go around that we're trying to do what we're doing. So for us, with the amount of times we've encountered them, it's just you when you know.
You do.
It's just just that simple.
Many of you starseeds out there too, you guys have had encounters too, but you have this knowing that you've always been watched. You have this feeling, and believe me, you are.
Yeah, most definitely. And maybe you've had episodes where you find yourself awake in bed and you can't move.
Mm-hmm.
And there's something there. Or even more, perhaps there's like a blinding light. Maybe you even find yourself up on a ship. Do you know how many people that's happened to? I mean, we're not talking about, we might be talking about millions and tens of millions or hundreds of millions. It's not an uncommon experience. And here you see out Arizona, a glowing fleet of UFOs spotted in the night sky. I don't think this even gets most people's attention anymore. And there's video here where you could see it, and you see them moving. I think our thoughts are more in line with now, okay, is this top secret military? Is this reptilian? Is this Pleiadian? Is it Galactic Federation? It's more like, who is it? Not like, oh my God, it's a UFO. Because I think at this point in time, so many people have seen things that are not, just normal, everyday swamp gas from Uranus.
Oh, yummy.
Barbaric, 58 pregnant cows mysteriously killed in North Dakota. And this gets into the sinister aspects of this. Cows are being mutilated in Oregon, horses in France, and North Dakota, 58 pregnant cows. And it gets into, okay, well, when you look at the nature of some of these mutilations, ears, eyes, udders, anuses, sex organs, tongues, removed, no blood, like a laser. Obviously, something along those lines with no blood. And we've encountered that ourselves in New Mexico. It's pretty damn creepy, honestly. We encountered so many dead animals. We encountered animals with no heads.
Yep.
What creature is going to take a head off and the head's missing? And yet there's no meat eaten, and the organs are not even eaten. we encountered that so many times, and it just felt so damn evil, so evil. And it was like, Sassy used to have so much fun chasing these two bunnies. She didn't really want to catch them, but it was just one of our things. We go for a walk at night and walk the property and say, Sassy, where's the bunnies? And so we did that. And then, I encountered two dead bunnies, basically with circular holes in them, and they were uneaten. They were just killed and left out right in the back porch.
Mm-hmm.
Almost like saying, "Ha, we took away, your fun, and we took away the lives of these, poor little innocent creatures." It shows you the demonic nature of this, and yeah, I don't deny that there are demons, but not all demons are extraterrestrials. Uh, it's a difference, and not all extraterrestrials are demons, I should say, really. Because you could tell the difference when you're used to encountering these different beings, and we both have encountered countless different beings. I don't know if we were to categorize them. I don't know what we would be up into, as far as different types of beings. Yeah, demons tend to have certain characteristics. A lot of times they look like black holes with glowing eyes. Um, but a lot of those are just thought forms. And actually, those are thought forms often that are created by another entity, such as the reptilians or the Draco, and others as well, that are just basically created to serve a purpose. But they're kind of soulless beings. They don't have source in them themselves. And they're very easy typically to get rid of. And they'll go away from just anything. As long as you have faith in yourself and you know that source is within you, they'll shy away. And then there are those other entities like we were talking about with the grays, the tall grays, short grays, all sorts of different extraterrestrials. So one of the things they keep harping on, meaning the guides, is you got to be as healthy and prepared as possible for these times, because the lockdowns that we're seeing are just going to keep increasing. Cindy was getting from the guides now that we're heading into a period, it's going to be very much like prohibition, except for instead of alcohol, if you're in a certain state of, well, having something or not having something, not doing something or having done something, the prohibition might be on you. In and of itself, you are, you know, being prohibited from anything in society.
Yep.
And so there again, this is why, and so many family members we've been talking to, and I, just asked them directly, how much do you have as far as food? How much food do you have? Oh, we're in pretty good shape. Yeah, I think we're covered for about 3 months. That's not enough. It's not even close to enough. And I know, again, it could be difficult, but when you look at it, you could find yourself a 50-pound bag of rice or beans. I found a 50-pound bag of beans now, organic. I think I spent like 80 something dollars on that, but that's going to end up in reality, just a year earlier, I paid probably half what I paid now, 40% less anyway. It's going to give you a lot more meals than just, even going, fast food route, because you could live off the dollar menu. That's a quick method to get yourself, at the nearest cemetery.
Yeah, eat fast, die young.
Exactly. Especially with, what is being put into those meals as well in these times. So exercise is key. 7,000 steps a day dramatically cuts the risk of heart disease, premature death in middle-aged adults. You gotta keep physically active. And it's huge. Mortality rates drop by 63 and 70% respectively when you're looking at a group of adults between 38 and 50, and they broke it down to between white and black participants. That's enormous. 63 to 70%. That's a huge improvement. How could you not? And again, I understand some people, are wheelchair bound and things like that. And we could do whatever we can do. It has to be a will there to get healthier and stronger. And our spiritual strength is related to a degree to our physical well-being as well.
Right. You do what you can. If it's hand weights, it's hand weights. You do what you can.
Yeah, and I used to teach Qigong to people even sitting in chairs because of different issues, stroke, rehab, surgeries, you name it. So where there's a will, there's a way. We just have to cultivate that will. So thank you guys for being part of the family. Make sure you are subscribed and have the bell clicked, and hopefully you'll get a notification or two. We do make videos pretty much every single day, so just come by and check. As we know, a lot of times they won't send the notifications out. Thank you for everybody that's been checking out Medicinal Foods and supporting these fine people as well. Use the coupon code EEA for an extra 5% off your order, and then as you fill up your cart, you could get discounts up to 25% off and free shipping as well. Lots of good, healthy stuff there. And thank you, Patreons. We couldn't do it without your support, and also those that are supporting us on Ko-Fi, where you could also do a one-time support or also monthly. As we know, the ever-tightening noose of the system is basically trying to snuff out all alternative voices. And, we really do appreciate you guys.
Indeed, we do. Thank you so much.
God bless and namaste.
Namaste.